Empty your pockets and get on the ground. An officer's gun points straight at a black motorcyclist who has not broken a single law. Officer Garrett Knox tears the helmet from the rider's head, revealing a face etched with patience and unyielding resolve. Fancy bike for your kind. Where'd you steal it? The rider's sharp eyes lock onto Knox's nameplate and badge, assessing every detail with calm intensity. Officer Nolan Pierce empties the saddlebags. Military documents scatter like confetti across the ground. Colonel Darius Caldwell, he reads with mockery. Yeah, right. Playing soldier. Knox sneers, pressing a boot against the rider's back. If you're a colonel, I'm the commander-in-chief. The rider speaks once, his voice like steel wrapped in silk. I need to make one call. Lawyers don't work roadside. Knox laughs as the cuffs bite into the wrists. A dangerous calm settles over the rider's features. You have a few moments before you destroy your career. As the patrol car pulls away, military satellites overhead silently track its movement. Colonel Darius Caldwell eases his custom Harley along the sun-baked highway outside the small town. His riding gear is premium yet understated, offering no hint of his decades in military service or his current position directing Pentagon Special Operations logistics. The charity ride supporting veterans' mental health brings him through small towns like this one regularly. Today, like most days off base, he is just another black man on an expensive motorcycle. Officers Garrett Knox and Nolan Pierce idle in their patrol car at the town limits. Knox, a veteran with excessive force complaints buried in his file, drums impatient fingers on the steering wheel. The sergeant's promotion he expected remains elusive, souring his outlook. Beside him, Pierce, young and fresh-faced, watches Knox for cues on how real policing works. Look at that. Knox straightens as Caldwell's Harley approaches. Pretty nice ride. Pierce nods. Custom work's not cheap. Not too nice for around here. Knox's eyes narrow. Bet there's a reason he can afford it. The implication hangs in the air, unsupported by anything except assumption. Caldwell pulls into a gas station, his movements efficient and precise. He fills the tank, then enters the store for water. The owner, Mrs. Evelyn Grant, a gray-haired woman with sharp eyes, notices his military ID when he pays. Thank you for your service, she says, with genuine respect. Caldwell offers a modest smile. Just doing my job, ma'am. Back in the patrol car, Knox's attention remains fixed on Caldwell as he exits the station. Let's see what he's running. They pull out behind the motorcycle. No traffic violations occur, but Knox activates the lights anyway. Caldwell signals properly and pulls to the shoulder. Kickstand down. Hands visible on the handlebars. Textbook compliance. Through his mirrors, Caldwell watches the officers approach. His expression remains neutral, but his eyes hold the weariness born from previous experiences. The insignia on his military ID will not protect him from what comes next. It never has. Knox approaches with his hand resting on his holster, stance aggressive. License and registration. May I reach for my wallet, officer? Caldwell asks, his voice carefully modulated. Slowly, Knox barks. The word itself an accusation. Caldwell retrieves his military ID and vehicle registration with deliberate movements. Knox snatches them, studying the ID with open skepticism. Colonel? Knox looks at Pierce with a smirk. In what army? United States Army, Caldwell replies evenly. decades of service. Pierce shifts uncomfortably. Knox ignores Caldwell's statement entirely. "Where are you coming from? Where are you headed?" The rapid-fire questions come without acknowledging Caldwell's identification. Caldwell explains the charity ride calmly, mentioning the veterans event he is attending. His words are precise and respectful despite the treatment. Knox's expression hardens. "Step off the bike now." "May I ask why I'm being asked to dismount, officer?" Caldwell maintains eye contact. "Because I said so," Knox's voice rises. "Do it now." Caldwell swings his leg over the motorcycle with military precision, knowing exactly what happens to black men who question authority. Caldwell stands beside his motorcycle, hands visible at his sides. Sunlight gleams off of the polished chrome of his Harley as Knox circles him like a predator, assessing prey. Pierce hangs back, uncertainty creeping into his posture as he examines Caldwell's military ID more closely. "This doesn't look right," Knox claims, though the military ID with its security features and holographic elements is clearly legitimate. "Lot of fakes going around these days." Caldwell maintains his composure, voice steady. "Officer, I've properly identified myself. May I ask why I was stopped?" "We've had reports of drug trafficking on this route." The lie rolls easily off Knox's tongue. "No such reports exist. Motorcycles are common transport. I understand your concern," Caldwell responds. "I assure you I'm simply passing through on a charity ride." Knox's eyes narrow. "Mind if we take a look at your bags?" It is not really a question. Without waiting for consent, Knox nods to Pierce, who approaches the motorcycle saddlebags. "Officer," Caldwell interjects, his tone firm but not confrontational. "With respect, you need probable cause to search my vehicle." Knox steps closer, using his height to intimidate. "Refusing a search? What are you hiding, Colonel?" The title drips with contempt. Pierce pauses, glancing between the two men. Something about this feels wrong, but he is too new to challenge Knox's lead. "I'm not refusing," Caldwell clarifies. "I'm stating my constitutional rights as a citizen." "Step back and put your hands on your head," Knox orders, voice hardening. His hand drifts toward his holster, a calculated gesture. Caldwell complies with precision, military bearing evident in every movement. "I'd like to speak with your supervisor, officer." "Oh, you want special treatment?" Knox sneers. "Not happening." The radio crackles. Dispatch reporting a disturbance across town. Knox deliberately ignores it. Fixated on Caldwell. Caldwell notices Knox's body camera is off. He checks the time on his watch. The gesture is subtle but deliberate. He is documenting everything. Pierce begins searching the saddlebags without authorization. He finds a sealed envelope bearing military insignia. Knox grabs it, tearing the envelope open without care. "That's classified material, officer." Caldwell's voice changes subtly, a commander's authority seeping through his civilian restraint. "Sure it is." Knox scoffs, deliberately scattering the papers across the ground where the wind catches them, sending them tumbling along the roadside. A silver sedan slows as it passes. The driver, a middle-aged woman, begins recording with her phone. Knox shouts at her to move along, his attention momentarily divided. Caldwell stands motionless, his military training evident in his disciplined response. Each violation is mentally cataloged, each moment recorded in his memory with precision. "Where'd you get this bike?" Knox demands, running his hand possessively over the handlebars. "Seems too expensive for..." He catches himself before finishing the blatantly biased statement. "I purchased it legally," Caldwell responds evenly. "The registration is in your hand." Knox unclips his handcuffs with a metallic click that cuts through the air like a promise. "On your knees," Knox commands, jingling the handcuffs. "Now!" Caldwell complies, lowering himself to the scorching asphalt. The heat burns through his riding pants, but his face betrays nothing. Decades of military discipline manifest as dignified silence in the face of humiliation. Knox grabs Caldwell's helmet from the motorcycle seat, yanking it roughly by the strap. "No concealing your face out here." He tosses the expensive helmet carelessly onto the ground, where it bounces once before settling in the dirt. Caldwell's close-cropped gray hair and distinguished features come fully into view. A small scar traces his right cheekbone, a reminder of combat long ago. His eyes, clear and penetrating, continue their steady assessment of the situation. These eyes have witnessed war zones across 3 continents, now watching injustice unfold on American soil. "Colonel Caldwell?" Knox mocks, examining the military ID again. "Sure, and I'm General Patton." He flips the ID carelessly into the dust near Caldwell's knees. Pierce continues rummaging through the motorcycle, pulling out a small metal case. He opens it to reveal a collection of military challenge coins and medals. His expression shifts, discomfort growing as evidence mounts that Caldwell might actually be who he claims. "Knox, these look legitimate," Pierce says quietly. Knox ignores him, focused on Caldwell's wallet now, emptying its contents onto the ground. Credit cards, receipts, and a photograph spill out. The photo shows Caldwell in full dress uniform, standing among the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Knox glances at it, then deliberately steps over the image. Caldwell remains silent, eyes tracking Knox's badge number, memorizing details with military precision. Nothing escapes his notice. The timestamp on Knox's watch, Pierce's hesitation, the gathering audience across the street. "Where'd you steal these military items from?" Knox demands, kicking at the scattered challenge coins. "Those are my earned decorations." "Officer," Caldwell replies, his voice level despite the indignity of his position. Across the street at the gas station, a small crowd begins to gather. Mrs. Evelyn Grant stands in the doorway, hand over her mouth. Beside her, customers raise phones, recording the scene. The audience grows by the minute, silent witnesses to the unfolding abuse of power. Knox notices the attention. "Nothing to see here," he shouts before turning back to Caldwell. "Your kind always causes a scene." Caldwell's expression does not change, but his eyes register the comment, cataloging it alongside every other violation. Pierce discovers a satellite phone in the side compartment of the motorcycle. Military communications equipment, compact and sophisticated. "Look at this," he calls to Knox. "Satellite phone." Knox snatches it. "Drug dealers use these to avoid detection." He examines the device with exaggerated suspicion. "High-tech stuff to stay off the grid." "That's standard military issue for my position," Caldwell states flatly. Knox laughs, tossing the expensive device onto the ground beside the scattered papers. "Sure it is, Colonel." "Officer Knox," Caldwell says, emphasizing the name. "You're making a significant error." Knox freezes. "How do you know my name?" "It's on your nameplate, officer," Caldwell replies, gaze unwavering. "What else do you know?" Knox demands, sudden paranoia edging his voice. "I know enough to suggest you reconsider your actions," Caldwell says, each word measured and precise. Knox's face contorts with anger at what he perceives as a threat. He yanks Caldwell's arms behind his back, cuffing him with unnecessary force. "Threatening an officer now?" Caldwell winces slightly as the metal bites into his wrists, but maintains his composure. "Maybe we should call this in," Pierce suggests, uncertainty growing. "Check his story." "He's playing you," Knox snaps. "These guys always have a story." Caldwell speaks again, calm but firm. "I need to make a call within the next few moments. It's a matter of national security." Knox laughs. "National security? You'll call your lawyer from the station." "That would be unwise," Caldwell states simply. Knox drags Caldwell toward the patrol car. "You're under arrest for possession of falsified government documents and resisting arrest." "I haven't resisted," Caldwell points out reasonably, "and my documents are authentic." The crowd across the street has grown larger. More phones recording the scene, becoming a spectacle of injustice captured in real time. As Caldwell is forced into the back seat, his eyes meet those of an elderly veteran in the crowd who recognizes exactly who they are arresting. The elderly veteran watches in disbelief as the patrol car pulls away. Frank Donnelly, former Army sergeant, recognizes Colonel Caldwell instantly. Those distinctive features had appeared in Army times recently. Donnelly's weathered hands tremble with indignation as he hurries toward the gas station. "Mrs. Evelyn Grant," he calls to the store owner. "That officer just arrested Colonel Darius Caldwell." Mrs. Evelyn Grant's eyes widen. "The motorcyclist, are you sure?" "Served decades. Runs special ops logistics at the Pentagon." Donnelly's voice carries the certainty of someone who still reads every military publication. "My grandson serves under his command. That Knox has been trouble for years." Mrs. Evelyn Grant shakes her head. "Always picking on the wrong people." Donnelly's jaw sets with determination. "Not this time. I need to use your phone." Inside the patrol car, Caldwell sits upright despite the handcuffs, forcing his shoulders back uncomfortably. The discomfort is meaningless. He has endured far worse. His military training included resistance to interrogation scenarios, preparing officers for captivity. This situation differs in jurisdiction but follows familiar patterns of power and control. Knox drives, repeatedly glancing in the rearview mirror. Caldwell's steady gaze unsettles him. "I'm telling you," Pierce says quietly. "Something doesn't add up. Maybe we should verify his ID before processing." "You going soft?" Knox snaps. "He's playing you. These guys always do." Caldwell remains silent, observing the time on his wristwatch. The military timepiece, far more than a simple watch, begins a silent countdown sequence visible only to him. Embedded communications technology activating emergency protocols. At the gas station, Frank Donnelly punches a number into Mrs. Evelyn Grant's phone with urgency. His grandson, Lieutenant Donnelly, answers on the second ring. "Lieutenant Donnelly speaking." "It's Grandpa." Donnelly explains the situation in rapid, precise, military shorthand. "They've arrested Colonel Caldwell. Roadside harassment, no cause." Silence on the line. Then, "Colonel Caldwell, the deputy director, on what charges?" "Looked like profiling, pure and simple. Officer named Knox. I need to inform command immediately." Lieutenant Donnelly responds, his voice shifting to formal alert mode. "Thank you, sir." The call ends. Frank Donnelly hands the phone back to Mrs. Evelyn Grant. His expression is grim, but satisfied. Now we wait. Inside a secure military facility a short distance away, Lieutenant Donnelly moves with purpose through security checkpoints. His access badge opens doors that remain locked to most personnel. He reaches his commanding officer's office, knocks once, enters without waiting. "Sir, we have a situation. Colonel Caldwell has been detained by local police." The commanding officer looks up sharply. "On what authority?" "None, sir. Appears to be harassment." Alarm spreads through the chain of command with military efficiency. Phones ring, secure messages transmit, personnel mobilize. In the patrol car, Caldwell breaks his silence. "Officer Knox, this is your final opportunity to correct your mistake." Knox scoffs, but uncertainty flickers across his face. "Save it for the judge. In a few moments, your actions will have consequences you're unprepared for," Caldwell states, voice devoid of threat, simply conveying facts. Knox forces a laugh that sounds hollow, even to his own ears. At the military base, the emergency response team assembles. Officers receive briefing in rapid, efficient bursts of information. Colonel Caldwell has been illegally detained while carrying classified materials, the base commander explains. The Secretary of Defense has been notified and has authorized immediate intervention. Military police vehicles and Humvees line up at the gate, engines running, precision and urgency in every movement. Base commander speaks into a secure line, confirms satellite tracking on the patrol vehicle. "We have visual. Affirmative, sir. Full track established." The military convoy begins moving out, a coordinated response to a threat against national security personnel. Inside the patrol car, Caldwell maintains his composed silence. Pierce checks his phone, growing increasingly anxious. "Knox, you should see this." He holds up his screen. Social media is blowing up with videos of the arrest. People are saying he's really a high-ranking officer. "Since when do we police by Twitter?" Knox snaps, but sweat beads on his forehead. "Minutes remaining, Officer Knox," Caldwell states calmly. "Until what?" Knox demands, knuckles white on the steering wheel. Caldwell does not answer. His silent dignity is more powerful than any threat could be. Police dispatch crackles urgently over the radio as a formation of black helicopters appears on the horizon. Chief Donovan's phone rings in the middle of a budget meeting. He glances at the display, the mayor's office, and excuses himself. The mayor never calls directly unless something is wrong. "Donovan," he answers, stepping into the hallway. "Chief, what the hell is happening?" The mayor's voice crackles with tension. "I just got off the phone with the governor, who got a call from the Pentagon about one of your officers detaining a high-ranking military official." Donovan's stomach drops. "Sir, I don't know what—" "Fix it now." The call ends abruptly. Donovan rushes to dispatch, sweat dampening his collar. "Get me Officer Knox immediately." "We've been trying, sir." The dispatcher responds. He's not answering radio calls. Donovan curses under his breath. "Where is he?" "Approaching the station. ETA soon." Donovan strides toward the station entrance, barking orders as he moves. "I want every officer on duty outside now." Meanwhile, Knox and Pierce approach the station with Caldwell still cuffed in the back seat. Knox has deliberately turned off his radio, ignoring the increasingly frantic calls from dispatch. Caldwell sits calmly, watching the time. "Your chief is trying to reach you." "How would you know that?" Knox snaps, eyes flicking nervously to the rearview mirror. "Because in moments, your career in law enforcement ends," Caldwell states without emotion. Pure assessment, not threat. Knox forces a laugh, but his hands tighten on the wheel. As they pull into the station parking lot, an unusual scene unfolds. The entire department seems to have assembled outside. Chief Donovan stands front and center, face ashen. "Knox, stop right there," Donovan shouts the moment the patrol car comes to a halt. "Release him immediately." Knox exits slowly, confusion evident. "Chief, uncuff him now." Donovan rushes forward. "Do you have any idea who you've arrested?" Knox hesitates, defensive posture setting in. He had fake military ID. "That's Colonel Darius Caldwell, Deputy Director of Special Operations Logistics at the Pentagon." Donovan's voice carries across the parking lot, each word a nail in Knox's career coffin. Pierce moves immediately, opening the rear door and carefully removing Caldwell's handcuffs. "I'm sorry, sir," he murmurs, genuine regret in his voice. The distinctive thrum of helicopter rotors fills the air. Multiple black SUVs with government plates screech into the parking lot, forming a perimeter. Caldwell steps from the patrol car, straightening his jacket with dignified movements. Despite the ordeal, his composure remains intact. "Thank you, Officer Pierce." Military personnel in crisp uniforms exit the vehicles, approaching with purposeful strides. Knox backs away, desperation creeping into his voice. "He was acting suspicious. I was riding my motorcycle on a public road." Caldwell corrects him calmly. Donovan turns to Knox, fury barely contained. "You've really done it this time." The military officers surround Caldwell, creating a protective formation. A senior officer steps forward, saluting sharply. "Colonel, are you all right, sir?" Caldwell returns the salute with precision. "I'm fine, Major." Knox watches in dawning horror as Caldwell's true position becomes undeniable. The military's response confirming what he refused to believe. Caldwell addresses the major. "The classified documents that were scattered need to be recovered immediately." "Already in progress, sir," the major responds, gesturing to a team deploying from one of the vehicles. The ground vibrates beneath their feet as the first of many Humvees crests the hill, green metal catching the afternoon sun. The police station parking lot transforms before everyone's eyes. Military precision replaces civilian chaos as Humvees establish a perimeter, their diesel engines rumbling in synchronized harmony. Military police in full tactical gear deploy methodically, securing the area with practiced efficiency. At the center of this operation stands Caldwell, no longer the humiliated detainee, but the clear authority figure. Officers and officials now orbit around him like planets around a sun. The power shift is palpable. Chief Donovan leads Caldwell inside the station, apologizing profusely with every step. "Colonel, I can't express how deeply sorry the department is for this incident." Caldwell walks beside him, posture military straight. "This isn't about me, Chief. This is about procedure, training, and bias." Donovan nods quickly. "I understand, sir. Officer Knox has had issues before." Caldwell stops, fixing Donovan with a penetrating gaze. "Yet he remains on your force." The chief has no response, the uncomfortable truth hanging between them. Outside, Knox attempts to slip away amid the confusion, edging toward his personal vehicle. Two military MPs intercept him with synchronized movements, appearing as if from nowhere. "Officer Knox," one states flatly, "Colonel Caldwell requires your presence." Knox's face hardens, defiance masking fear. He has no authority over local police. The MP's expression does not change. "Perhaps not, but the FBI agents who just arrived do." Two individuals in dark suits approach, credentials already extended. Officer Knox, Special Agents Rivera and Patel, FBI Civil Rights Division. The blood drains from Knox's face. Civil Rights Division. Agent Rivera nods once. We'll need a complete statement regarding today's events. I was just doing my job, Knox protests, voice rising defensively. Were you? Agent Rivera asks quietly. We have witness statements and video evidence suggesting otherwise. Inside the station, Caldwell confers with military legal officers in a glass-walled conference room. Their discussion focuses on jurisdictional boundaries, the interplay between civilian and military authority. Sir, we could handle this internally, a military lawyer suggests, leaning forward. Make it go away. Caldwell shakes his head firmly. No, that perpetuates the problem. This needs to be addressed through proper civilian channels. With respect, Colonel, this could become a media circus. Then it becomes one. Caldwell states, accountability requires visibility. Outside the conference room, Officer Pierce waits nervously. When Caldwell emerges, Pierce approaches with hesitant steps. Sir, I want to apologize, he begins, voice unsteady. I should have stopped it. Caldwell studies the young officer, measuring his character. Yes, you should have. Moral courage is harder than physical courage, Officer Pierce. Remember that. Pierce nods, the lesson landing with the weight of truth. The station doors burst open as the mayor arrives, straightening his tie as he hurries toward Caldwell, his hand extended preemptively. Colonel Caldwell, this is a terrible misunderstanding, he announces, political smile firmly in place. Caldwell looks at the offered hand, but does not take it. This wasn't a misunderstanding, Mayor. This was systemic failure. The mayor's hand drops slowly, smile fading. Behind him, news vans begin arriving outside, reporters deploying equipment with practiced speed. A senior Pentagon official emerges from a black SUV. Face grim as aides scramble to clear his path to Caldwell. General Prescott strides through the station doors, his 4 stars glinting under fluorescent lights. Junior officers snap to attention as he passes. His presence transforms the police station into an extension of the Pentagon's authority, civilian jurisdiction temporarily eclipsed by military necessity. Prescott moves directly to Caldwell, ignoring the mayor and police officials. Darius, the Secretary of Defense, is demanding updates every few moments. This has reached the White House. Caldwell nods once, calm amid the accelerating storm. Tell them I'm handling it, sir. The classified materials? Prescott asks, lowering his voice. Being recovered. Breach protocol initiated. Caldwell confirms. His eyes track the military team, currently securing scattered documents outside. Initial assessment indicates no critical compromise. Prescott notices Knox being questioned by the FBI agents across the room. His eyes narrow. Is that him? Caldwell follows his gaze and nods. Prescott's expression hardens. Want me to destroy him? No. Caldwell's response is immediate. We follow procedure, always. Prescott raises an eyebrow but does not argue. The principle has guided Caldwell's career. Accountability through proper channels, not backroom retribution. Caldwell's phone rings. He checks the display and straightens almost imperceptibly. Excuse me, sir, it's the secretary. He steps away to take the call. Responses measured and precise. Yes, Mr. Secretary. No compromise of alpha materials. Yes, sir. Proceeding through appropriate channels. Meanwhile, Chief Donovan reviews body camera footage with the FBI agents in his office. Knox had turned his off, but Pierce, following department policy, had left his active. The footage shows the entire incident in damning detail. Knox paces in the break room, Watched by a stoic MP, he sees fellow officers passing in the hallway, avoiding eye contact. The isolation of the fallen. He attempts conversation with a longtime colleague who merely shakes his head and continues walking. Outside, local news vans have multiplied. Reporters setting up for live broadcasts. The story spreading through social media and news alerts. Military officer illegally detained. Racial profiling incident draws Pentagon response. Caldwell concludes his call and rejoins General Prescott. "Sir, I need to make a statement." Prescott frowns. "That might not be advisable, given the sensitive nature." "With respect, sir," Caldwell interrupts gently. "Silence serves no one. This isn't about me. It's about accountability." Prescott studies Caldwell's face, then nods reluctantly. "Keep it focused on policy, not classified operations." "Always, sir." Caldwell approaches the police station steps, where reporters have gathered. The police chief and mayor attempt to position themselves advantageously, each trying to control the narrative. Caldwell waits patiently as the mayor gives a statement filled with political evasions about unfortunate incidents and pending full investigations. When Caldwell steps forward, the crowd quiets naturally. His authority radiates without effort. Decades of command presence evident in his bearing alone. "I am Colonel Darius Caldwell, United States Army." He begins, voice clear and measured. "What happened today happens to citizens across America daily. The difference is I have the Pentagon behind me. Most victims of profiling don't." The statement lands with devastating simplicity, no embellishment needed. No. Reporters erupt with questions. Caldwell answers selectively, each response factual and controlled. No anger, no accusations. Just clear statements that cut through political obfuscation. Through the station window, Knox watches his career disintegrate in real time. Each of Caldwell's measured words, another nail in its coffin. A sleek government car pulls up as Caldwell concludes his statement. Someone unexpected has arrived to change the game entirely. The government car's door opens smoothly. A civilian aide emerges first, carrying a garment bag with military precision. He approaches Caldwell with a respectful nod, deliberately ignoring the swarm of reporters shouting questions. Chief Donovan hurries over, anxiety evident in his movements. "Colonel, we've prepared a statement of apology from the department." Caldwell raises a hand slightly. "One moment, Chief." He takes the garment bag with a nod of thanks. The exchange appears insignificant to observers, but General Prescott watches with understanding in his eyes. Caldwell enters the station briefly, the doors closing behind him as reporters speculate wildly. Inside a private office, Caldwell unzips the garment bag methodically. He removes his riding jacket, replacing it with a meticulously pressed uniform. The transformation is more than clothing. It is revelation. Outside, Knox watches through a window, confusion replacing defiance. "What's happening now?" he mutters to no one in particular. When the station doors reopen moments later, Colonel Darius Caldwell has vanished. In his place stands Major General Darius Caldwell, 2 stars gleaming on each shoulder of his immaculate dress uniform. Multiple rows of combat decorations span his chest, telling a story of exceptional service most civilians could not fully comprehend. The revelation ripples through the assembled crowd. Reporters fumble with cameras. Police officers stare in disbelief. Knox, glimpsing Caldwell's true rank for the first time, pales visibly, the blood draining from his face as the magnitude of his error becomes fully apparent. General Prescott approaches Caldwell, rendering a formal salute that Caldwell returns with equal precision. General, your security team is quite concerned about today's events. The use of Caldwell's proper rank sends another shock wave through the audience, not just a colonel, a general. Caldwell steps to the microphones again, his authority now visually undeniable. The crowd falls silent without prompting. Today was not an isolated incident, he begins, voice measured but carrying effortlessly. It represents a pattern affecting military personnel of color across this nation. Recently, I've been conducting an official Pentagon review of such incidents near our installations. The revelation lands like thunder. Caldwell has not merely been a victim of profiling. He has been conducting an official investigation into such incidents. His presence in the town was not coincidental but purposeful, part of a broader Pentagon initiative. The Department of Defense has a duty to ensure the safety and equal treatment of all service members. When a general can be profiled and detained illegally, imagine what happens to our enlisted personnel. Caldwell gestures to a team of military attorneys who step forward carrying tablets and folders. These officers from our Civil Rights Division have been documenting cases throughout the region. One of the attorneys approaches the microphone. General Caldwell's case will be added to the numerous similar incidents we've documented involving military personnel of color in just this region. To this, the mayor shifts uncomfortably, suddenly understanding the broader implications. This is not merely about one traffic stop gone wrong. It is about systemic patterns now documented by the Pentagon itself. Caldwell continues, This isn't about one officer or one department. It's about systemic issues requiring systemic solutions. Inside, Knox watches military officers reviewing Pierce's body cam footage on tablets, discussing specific violations with FBI agents. His career's implosion unfolds in real time before his eyes. Caldwell moves with quiet efficiency, directing his staff through the next steps of what is clearly a well-established protocol. The military operation expands not through force, but through bureaucratic and legal channels that cannot be stopped or diverted. A new group of officials enters the station, representatives from the Department of Justice who have been alerted by Caldwell's office the moment he was detained. General Caldwell's detention triggers automatic federal review under executive order, announces a DOJ official to the police chief, who realizes with growing horror that he is losing control of his department as federal and military authorities establish jurisdiction. Caldwell approaches Pierce, who stands uncertainly near the dispatch desk. Officer Pierce, you hesitated today? You knew something was wrong but followed anyway? Pierce looks down, shame evident. Yes, sir. That moment of hesitation shows potential, Caldwell says quietly. Build on it. Moral courage can be developed like any muscle. The teaching moment contrasts sharply with Knox's situation. One officer offered guidance for growth, another facing consequences for entrenchment. Caldwell returns to the assembled officials, his bearing reflecting absolute authority without arrogance. I expect full compliance with the federal investigation. Obstruction will not be tolerated. His tone makes clear this is not personal vengeance but institutional correction. The distinction matters to Caldwell, who has built his career on principles rather than power. Caldwell's aide approaches with a secure satellite phone, voice lowered respectfully. Sir, the White House is requesting immediate input on civil rights legislation. Later, the Pentagon's central briefing room hums with tense energy. Military brass and civilian leadership fill the tiered seating, all eyes focused on the presentation screen. Caldwell stands at the podium, dress uniform impeccable, his bearing commanding respect without demanding it. Numerous documented cases of profiling involving military personnel of color, Caldwell states, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. Many resulted in illegal detention or search. The vast majority involved no probable cause beyond the service member's appearance and vehicle. The data scrolls across screens locations, patterns emerging from individual incidents. Caldwell's methodical presentation transforms anecdotes into undeniable evidence. The defense secretary leans forward. General, your recommendations. Caldwell transitions to the next slide seamlessly. A comprehensive approach addressing both military and civilian dimensions of the problem. He outlines a multi-pronged strategy. Enhanced legal support for service members, mandatory civil rights compliance training for bases and surrounding communities, data sharing between military and civilian authorities, and legislative reforms to strengthen accountability measures. Meanwhile, in the town, the FBI Civil Rights Division has established temporary offices in City Hall. Agents in dark suits move through the building with purpose, conducting interviews and reviewing years of records. Local officers watch wearily as federal authorities examine traffic stop data, arrest records, and complaint histories. Chief Donovan sits across from two FBI agents. Tie loosened, exhaustion evident in the slump of his shoulders. He has been answering questions for hours, cooperating fully in an attempt to salvage what remains of his career. Yes, we've had previous complaints about Officer Knox, he admits. Excessive force, discrimination, and the department's response. Agent Rivera asks, already knowing the answer from the files spread between them. Donovan shifts uncomfortably. Verbal counseling, one suspension, a few days for serious complaints. It is not a question. Across town, the mayor faces an emergency town council meeting. Residents pack the chamber, many holding signs denouncing police practices and demanding accountability. A recall petition circulates through the crowd, already gathering signatures. This national embarrassment falls directly on your administration, a longtime council member states. The lack of oversight has exposed our community to federal intervention and potential liability. The mayor's attempted defenses fall flat against public outrage, fueled by viral videos of Caldwell's detention. At the police station, Knox sits alone in the break room, suspension notice in hand. His union attorney stands in the doorway, expression grim. They're building a case for termination, the attorney says. My recommendation is full cooperation to mitigate damages. Knox's face hardens. I was doing my job following procedure. That's the problem, his attorney responds. If that was procedure, the procedure itself was illegal. Meanwhile, Pierce provides testimony to FBI investigators. His honesty about department practices is damning but potentially redemptive for his own career. It was understood that certain vehicles, certain people warranted additional scrutiny, he explains, discomfort evident in his posture. Not written policy, but definitely understood. Who conveyed this understanding? Agent Patel asks. Training officers, sergeants, including Knox. At the state capitol, the governor stands before cameras announcing a special commission on police reform. We've invited General Caldwell to consult on best practices ensuring constitutional policing throughout our state. In Washington, Caldwell moves between meetings with congressional leaders. His unique position, a general who experienced profiling firsthand, gives him unprecedented credibility with lawmakers across the political spectrum. Senator Michaels leans forward during a Judiciary Committee hearing. General, would you say this incident is representative of what military personnel of color routinely experience? Senator, the data speaks for itself. Caldwell responds evenly. This wasn't extraordinary. It was ordinary. That's the problem. The exchange makes evening news broadcasts nationwide, amplifying attention on the issue. At the State Police Academy, instructors implement new training protocols immediately. Cadets watch body cam footage from Caldwell's detention, pausing to identify each violation of law and policy. This is what unconscious bias looks like in action, the instructor explains. This is how careers end and departments face federal oversight. The ripple effects continue expanding. The Department of Justice places the town's police department under a consent decree, establishing federal oversight of operations, training, and discipline. This agreement is not punitive. The DOJ spokesperson explains to assembled media, it's corrective, a pathway to constitutional policing. Department-wide audits reveal patterns extending beyond Knox's individual actions. Traffic stop data shows racial disparities that cannot be explained by demographics or crime rates. Internal communications reveal casual bias embedded in department culture. Meanwhile, Caldwell conducts press interviews selectively, always redirecting from his personal experience to the systemic issues at stake. Do you want Officer Knox fired? An interviewer asks directly. I want proper accountability and systemic change, Caldwell responds. This isn't about one officer or even one department. It's about aligning practices with constitutional principles. At the Pentagon, military leadership implements Caldwell's recommendations for protecting service members off base. New reporting systems allow personnel to document civil rights concerns. Legal support offices expand their scope to include incidents in surrounding communities. Community liaison positions are created to build relationships with local law enforcement. The Defense Secretary announces these changes in a press conference. What happened to General Caldwell highlights vulnerabilities affecting our personnel daily. We're addressing these issues comprehensively to ensure all who serve this nation receive the respect and protection they deserve. Knox's disciplinary hearing is scheduled for soon after. The charges are extensive: civil rights violations, falsifying reports, improper detention, failure to activate body camera, evidence mishandling. Caldwell declines to attend personally, but submits a formal statement focused on policy failures rather than personal grievances. His focus remains on systemic rather than individual justice, transforming his experience into institutional improvement. As the hearing approaches, public attention intensifies. Activists organize rallies demanding accountability. Police unions issue statements about due process and officer protections. Editorial pages debate the broader implications for policing nationwide. Through it all, Caldwell maintains his characteristic composure, navigating political pressures with the same strategic thinking that distinguished his military career. Each interview, each testimony, each recommendation, precisely calibrated to achieve maximum institutional impact rather than personal vindication. As Caldwell's reforms gain momentum nationally, Officer Knox makes a decision that surprises everyone involved in the case. The disciplinary hearing room sits silent except for the soft whir of recording equipment. Sunlight filters through Venetian blinds, casting striped shadows across the long table where the review board members sit with expressions of professional neutrality. The room overflows with officials, media representatives, and community members, all drawn to the culmination of a case that has transcended local boundaries. Knox sits alone at a small table, posture rigid with defensive tension. His union representation occupies a chair nearby, but the deliberate distance between them speaks volumes. The evidence against Knox sits in neat stacks: case files, complaint histories, and transcripts that collectively tell a damning story. The board chairperson opens the proceedings with formal gravity. This hearing will determine appropriate administrative action regarding Officer Garrett Knox's conduct during the unlawful detention of Major General Darius Caldwell. What follows is a methodical dismantling of Knox's career. The review board presents findings from their investigation: a pattern of biased policing extending back years, multiple excessive force complaints consistently minimized, incident reports containing discrepancies that supervisors overlooked. Caldwell's detention emerges not as an isolated error, but as the predictable culmination of long-established patterns. Knox's attorney attempts to construct a defense around departmental practices. Officer Knox was following established procedures for suspicious vehicles and persons. A board member leans forward. Which procedure authorizes detention without probable cause? Please cite the specific policy. The attorney falters, shuffling through papers without finding an answer that does not further incriminate his client. Chief Donovan testifies next, walking a precarious line between accountability and institutional protection. His testimony reveals the department's systemic failures while attempting to distance leadership from individual officers' actions. We provide training on constitutional policing, Donovan states. Officer Knox received this training annually, yet the department took no meaningful action on his previous complaints. The question lands like a hammer. Donovan's hesitation speaks volumes. The disciplinary system needed improvement. Pierce takes the stand next, his youthful face now bearing the weight of difficult truths. His testimony proves devastating in its honesty, revealing the unwritten rules that shaped department culture. I was taught to look for indicators that weren't really indicators at all, Pierce explains, voice steady despite his obvious discomfort. Expensive vehicles driven by minorities, out-of-state plates in certain neighborhoods, things that aren't actually suspicious, but were treated as if they were. Who taught you these practices? The board asks. Senior officers, including Sergeant Knox. FBI agent Rivera presents findings from their broader investigation, contextualizing Knox's actions within patterns affecting hundreds of citizens over years. Charts display traffic stop disparities that statistics alone cannot explain away. As evidence mounts inexorably, Knox recognizes the inevitable outcome. When called to testify, he faces a pivotal choice between continued defiance and belated honesty. In a moment that surprises the entire room, he chooses the latter. I believed I was doing my job as I was trained to do it. Knox begins, voice subdued but clear. A board member leans forward. Were you trained to profile citizens based on race? Knox meets their gaze directly. Not explicitly, but implicitly, every day. His admission shifts the atmosphere subtly, not toward forgiveness, but toward a more complete understanding of the institutional failures at work. The way commendations were handed out, the stories told in the break room, who got promoted, it all sent a message about what kind of policing was rewarded, Knox continues. I can't defend what I did to General Caldwell, but I'm not the only one who did it. His words implicate not just himself, but an entire culture. Perhaps his first act of genuine service to the community he claimed to protect. The board deliberates briefly before delivering their unanimous decision. Termination effective immediately, with referral to the district attorney for criminal charges related to civil rights violations. As Knox surrenders his badge and service weapon, symbols of authority he failed to honor. The weight of consequence finally registers on his face. He passes Pierce in the hallway, their eyes meeting briefly. "They're making an example of me," Knox says, bitterness edging his voice. Pierce shakes his head. "No, they're making a correction. The distinction matters. Not punishment for its own sake, but accountability as a pathway to reform." Meanwhile, Caldwell receives the news at the Pentagon while reviewing implementation plans for nationwide training initiatives. He acknowledges the information with a single nod. No celebration, no vindication, just quiet recognition that one part of a larger process has reached completion. As news of Knox's termination breaks, Caldwell makes a decision about his own career that will transform the national conversation. Later, sunlight glints off the polished buttons of Caldwell's dress uniform as he stands before the newest class of Police Academy graduates. His presence commands attention without effort, a lifetime of leadership visible in his bearing. This marks one of his final appearances in military uniform. "Tomorrow," Caldwell announces to the attentive cadets, "I officially retire from active military service." A murmur runs through the audience. Caldwell has become a national figure since the town incident. His name synonymous with the civil rights reforms sweeping law enforcement agencies nationwide. "I've accepted appointment as director of a new joint DOD-DOJ task force on civil rights and community policing." He continues, "The career pivot surprises no one who has followed his advocacy over recent months." Caldwell surveys the diverse faces before him. The academy class reflects demographic changes implemented since the reforms began. "Your badge is not authority," he tells them. "It is responsibility. It is a promise to protect constitutional rights, not just public safety." The cadets absorb his words with the seriousness they deserve. Many enrolled specifically because of the changes Caldwell's case inspired. In Washington, D.C., a congressional hearing room buzzes with anticipation. The Caldwell Act, comprehensive legislation addressing qualified immunity, police training standards, and accountability measures, moves toward a floor vote with rare bipartisan support. Senator Michaels references data from Caldwell's Pentagon study. These patterns transcend geography and department size. The consistency of these violations demands federal response. Caldwell testifies with characteristic precision. "This legislation isn't punitive. It's protective of citizens' rights and officers' integrity alike. Across the country, police departments implement new training protocols, oversight mechanisms, and community engagement requirements. Some embrace the changes voluntarily. Others do so under consent decrees, similar to the town's. In the town itself, a new police chief, Rebecca Sanders, recruited specifically for her reform credentials, reviews, applications for department positions. The force is rebuilding under federal supervision, old practices systematically replaced with constitutional alternatives." Chief Sanders looks up from her desk as Officer Pierce enters hesitantly. He resigned during the investigations, unwilling to continue under the old regime. "You've reapplied," Sanders observes, studying his file. "Why should I rehire you after what happened?" Pierce meets her gaze directly. "Because I learned the hardest lesson early. I know the cost of moral failure now." His honesty earns him a second chance under strict probation, an opportunity to help build the department's new culture from within. At military bases nationwide, new community relations offices open their doors. Service members now have clear reporting channels for civil rights concerns arising off base. Legal support teams expand their scope to include incidents in surrounding communities. The Caldwell Task Force publishes its first findings, preliminary data showing measurable improvements in civil rights compliance around military installations. The report makes front-page news and triggers policy reviews in police departments nationwide. At a community center in the town, Caldwell, now in civilian attire, addresses residents, including many who witnessed his detention that fateful day. Change isn't about punishment, he explains, voice carrying the same authority without the uniform. It's about alignment, aligning practices with principles we already claim to hold. Mrs. Evelyn Grant, the gas station owner who witnessed the initial incident, stands to speak. What happened to you was terrible, General. But the changes we've seen since, maybe something good came from it. Caldwell acknowledges this complex truth with a nod. Sometimes, progress requires painful catalysts. The reforms continue expanding outward like ripples in still water. Police academies revise curricula nationwide. Departments implement early warning systems to identify problematic officer patterns before they escalate. Community oversight boards gain meaningful authority rather than serving as mere window dressing. Caldwell monitors these developments not with the satisfaction of personal vindication, but with the measured assessment of a strategist. Each implementation report, each policy change, each statistical improvement represents a small victory in a campaign he now leads full-time. A plain envelope arrives at Caldwell's office, postmarked from the town, containing a message he never expected to receive. The afternoon sun casts long shadows across Caldwell's desk at task force headquarters. Considerable time has passed since the incident that transformed a routine motorcycle ride into a catalyst for national reform. Caldwell's assistant places a letter on his desk. Unremarkable white envelope. No return address. Postmarked from the town. Caldwell opens it carefully, unfolding a single handwritten page. The penmanship is precise, deliberate. Garrett Knox's signature at the bottom. Knox's words acknowledge his mistakes without seeking absolution. I won't insult you by asking forgiveness, he writes. Some actions don't deserve it. He describes his journey since losing his badge. Therapy addressing long-buried biases, community service in neighborhoods he once patrolled with suspicion, difficult conversations with his own children about why their father no longer wears a uniform. I can't undo what I did, Knox concludes, but I'm trying to understand why I did it. That understanding doesn't excuse anything. Maybe it prevents someone else from making the same choices. Caldwell reads thoughtfully, expression revealing neither satisfaction nor resentment. He places the letter in his desk drawer rather than the official file, a human communication separate from institutional documentation. Later that week, Caldwell drives to the town, the custom Harley replaced with an understated sedan. The town has transformed not just the police department, but the community's relationship with it. Citizens attend oversight meetings that once happened behind closed doors. Officers walk beats they previously only drove through. Caldwell visits the roadside where he was detained. The spot now bears a small bronze plaque, site of the Caldwell incident, a catalyst for change. He reads it without comment, understanding the dual purpose it serves. Reminder and warning, both. At the police station, Chief Sanders welcomes Caldwell into an office once occupied by Donovan, who resigned shortly after the federal investigation began. Their discussion focuses on sustainability, ensuring reforms outlast the initial momentum and media attention. The real test comes when the spotlight fades, Sanders acknowledges. That's why structural change matters more than personnel changes, Caldwell responds. Systems outlast individuals. They review data showing dramatic reductions in biased enforcement patterns. Complaint numbers initially rose as citizens gained confidence in the new reporting systems, then fell as officer behavior genuinely improved. Traffic stops show no racial disparities for the first time in department history. That evening, Caldwell speaks at a community forum. The audience includes former Chief Donovan, now working with a police reform advocacy group, his expertise in departmental resistance to change, proving valuable from the opposite perspective. Mrs. Evelyn Grant sits near the front, nodding at points she finds particularly meaningful. Frank Donnelly, the veteran who made the crucial phone call that day, attends with his grandson, Lieutenant Donnelly. Most surprising to Caldwell, Officer Pierce, now Field Training Officer Pierce, sits attentively in his uniform, notebook open. His responsibility now includes teaching new recruits proper procedure and ethical policing, the transformation from reluctant follower to active reformer, evident in his engaged presence. Caldwell acknowledges them all in his remarks, highlighting the complex human dimensions beyond the policies and statistics. Some time ago, I experienced what thousands of citizens experience daily. Caldwell states simply, the difference wasn't in the incident but in the response to it. He outlines the progress made with characteristic precision. Measurable decreases in civil rights complaints, improved community trust metrics, new accountability systems, functioning as designed. We didn't need new values, Caldwell concludes. We needed to align our practices with the values we already professed. As the forum ends, Pierce approaches Caldwell with measured confidence that was not present before. "Sir, I'm training new officers now," he says. "I tell them your story every week." Caldwell nods. "Tell them their own stories too. Everyone has moments when they choose between what's easy and what's right." They shake hands, a moment of genuine connection across the divide that once separated them. Later, driving away from the town, Caldwell reflects on the distance traveled since that hot afternoon when he knelt on burning asphalt. His phone rings, the White House calling about expanding his task force's recommendations nationally. The moral crystallizes in his mind as he answers, "True authority comes not from power, but from principle." If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to now and hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss our latest uploads. Join our community of viewers who understand that stories have power.